in the morning. Juice in the morning. Juice in the morning.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Juice in the Morning. I am your host, Justin Juice Kelly. My other hosts with me are John Marchbanks. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing really good. How are you doing today?
Good. I think that we are fired up for this week of fantasy football. We're getting so close to the playoffs. The bye weeks are done. Everybody is playing. You have no excuse if you lose because there's too many players to play out there that are good. But also with me is Paul Lungard from Paulie Sleepers. How are you doing today, man?
What's up, Juice? Let's do this, man.
All right, so just to start off with, the bye weeks are done. So how do you guys feel about, how are your teams feeling right now? We don't have to get into Listener League too much. I know both of you guys compete in other leagues. So how are you guys doing? Are you sitting pretty? Are you struggling? Because with my $100 league, I'm right on the edge right there where I'm 7 and 5, I think. 7 and 5, 7 and 4, something like that. And, the people right behind me nipping at the heels are 6 and 5. So I'm right there. So I could, if I don't win this week, I could be out of the playoffs just based on points alone. Because in that league, I am one of the lowest scorers, but I'm number 4 overall on the record. So I'm getting lucky with the matchups.
You might be exposed soon. Yeah. John, how many leagues are you in?
I'm in 3 leagues right now.
You doing good? You making playoffs in all of them?
I'm comfortably into the playoffs in 2 of the leagues. My Pro Football Focus fantasy league.
I bet that one's tough.
It is tough, and I drafted Leonard Fournette and Dalvin Cook to start the season out, and they missed almost all year, so I basically had no chance. Everybody's on top of the waiver wire immediately in that league, so it's like I had no chance of coming back.
I'm assuming that's a fab league too, free agent budget league.
It's not a free agent budget league, but it's not like the same structuring as like the ESPN leagues or anything. It's all, we did it through email drafting, and it's a lot different. You do have to get to the waiver wire, and the way that the free agent pickups is weird, but it's not like money based.
Huh. Well, I'm in 6 leagues. I'm comfortably out in the one league that I've outscored the rest of the league by 160 points and literally hit their best weeks every time.
That's so crazy because I feel like that's happened to a lot of people this season.
Yeah, it happens all the time. This is the worst one that you've ever seen, though. When people talk about it on Twitter, I'm like, yeah, but what about this? And everybody's like, yeah, okay, that's the worst. Because, the team is just smashing. And then in the Juice in the Morning league, in my league, in our league, I need to win to get in. And then
I think Dylan Bolden said I still had an outside chance of making the playoffs. I don't think there's any chance after I lose to him. I
didn't see. And then in my other 4 leagues, I'm in. I'm good. So doing good, man. It's time. It's crunch time. I'm a little depressed that we've got 4 weeks left, and then this is done because that's not too much time, but
well, what I want to do, because there's so much of it going on, there's injury news, there's IR, tons of people we've lost.
We got to get going.
Let's get into that right now.
Hey baby, I've got breaking news. Breaking news. I've got some good news.
I got some bad news.
Nice, really. I just drank that beer and it's really cold, so I just wanted to go out on a limb and say slushy beer is probably one of the best things in the world, as long as it's not too frozen.
I don't like when it gets slushy.
As long as it's not too frozen, like just a little bit of it there,
cold.
I'm good.
Good, man. Good for you. I'm drinking Diet Coke.
All right, so tell me, what's the biggest news right now?
On Monday, just all these players.
Melvin Gordon out?
On Monday, all these players go into IR and the Melvin Gordon injury. So Andy Dalton is on IR. He had a torn thumb ligament. So Jeff Driscoll is going to be the starter there.
I'm sorry. Kaepernick is still not on a team. I've never even heard of Jeff Driscoll.
Right.
That sounds like a character from Red Dead Redemption 2.
Right. I thought it sounded like a town in England you stop and have a drink at the pub. We're going to stop in Driscoll and have a pub.
I like that.
I tweeted that.
Have a little bite?
Yeah. But he seems capable. And he'll also run the ball. things to, people were saying now, how does this affect Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, AJ Green? Which also breaking news, AJ Green will be back this week. According to him, he was limited in practice this week, but he says he's going to play back. He's going to come back to.
I think that's exciting for me as like a Tyler Boyd owner.
Because
Tyler Boyd hasn't been as like blowing up as much.
Tyler Boyd, people need AJ Green out there. Absolutely. And Driscoll targeted Tyler Boyd a lot, and also Mixon had a season high 7 catches, and that team is crappy. So I mean, they're gonna have to keep throwing the ball. He's mobile. I don't think the outlook for the Bengals fantasy guys are as bleak as you think, because they're not going to get in a positive game script.
Right.
They're not going to be not throwing the ball, and as long as they're targeting Joe Mixon, then those guys will be happy too. So we'll just have to see how it shakes out this week. But people are calling for a downgrade on all these players everywhere. AJ Green, to give a vote of confidence to Driscoll, because they said, you haven't practiced this with this guy. How's it going to work out? He said he just needs to chuck the rock up.
Yeah, put the rock up there, and I'll go find it.
He just needs to throw it up.
I love that. The confidence from AJ Green, that never lacking.
Yeah, John Ross is the one that's, you're not going to want to start, and that doesn't have anything to do with Driscoll. He's been relevant with AJ Green off the field. He's going to see a lot less playing time with AJ Green back. So, there were rumors that they may shelve AJ Green, and that's why he came out and said, hey, even if we were 0-15 and I had one game to play, I'm going to come out and play it if I can. So, I kind of like how he's addressed that, and I like him saying, telling the Driscoll to just throw it up. Yeah. Just throw it up there. Jack Doyle was rushed to the hospital with a kidney they came out and said just out of nowhere.
Kidney injury.
Yeah, they came out of nowhere and said undisclosed injuries on IR. And we found out later that it was a kidney. We still don't know that much about it, but I'm assuming it was probably a laceration.
Is that similar to like what happened to the guy in the Chargers? Why can't I think?
Well, it happened to
wide receiver. Keenan Allen.
It happened to Keenan Allen. It happened to Jason Witten too. Jason Witten played the next week with his kidneys halfway out of his body.
Yeah. No, Keenan Allen was a lacerated spleen or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was last year, but he was out immediately.
Yeah.
And then he went straight to the hospital from the game.
Right.
Is that what happened?
I think Jack Doyle.
Doyle went to the hospital.
Went to the hospital right after it happened.
He's out. Okay. Also, Andrew Luck had a lacerated kidney last year when he had a broken ribs, and one of his ribs cut his kidneys open. Never question how much money these guys are getting paid.
A couple things really quick though. The pass to Andrew Luck where he got clobbered. I thought that was my instant reaction was this is stupid. But then I hear everybody I hear some people from the Heartland podcast here in Indianapolis saying I like that move. I mean, if he's going to get hit by a 185 pound corner, are you that worried about it? Since he's
the Heartland podcast said that was a good.
It's Pat McAfee's podcast.
It's Pat McAfee's. Yeah. Okay, well I like Pat McAfee, but that's some horse shit.
I think it's a bad call. I mean, also it's a bad ball by Brissett. Do you think Brissett was doing that on purpose,
trying to get some playing time?
Wow, that's a hell of a narrative. Hang him out to dry to get more playing time. Well, they threw it to him last week in the end zone, and there's a little bit more of a reward there.
Right.
To me, the reward on this is maybe a 5 or 6 or 8 yard play and a first down. I mean, it's such a low reward, high risk play. And on the sidelines, the reporter said they're calling it the cash for money formation. And I tweeted out that they should be calling it that we have plenty of cash under the cap for a new quarterback when ours goes into traction. But yeah, they got to stop doing that. Most Colts fans are pretty irate about them doing that. And it's funny because after the end zone one 2 weeks ago, he said, I'm retiring from wide receiver. And then they did it again. Colts stopped doing that. It's not worth it.
I like the play call if we hadn't gone through all of the stuff that we've gone through with Andrew Luck being hurt.
I don't like it. Yeah, I don't like it at all.
But go ahead. Sorry, I derailed it for a second, but get back into those news.
Ebron is like the only healthy tight end right now. And he's
once
not
again,
really
I
healthy.
sat him over Gronk. Dude, I'm going to start them both. I'm starting them both this week. I can't not do it.
Yeah, you could probably do that.
Every week that I've sat Ebron, he's dominated. Like I've maybe taken advantage of him like 1 or 2 weeks.
You can flex one of those guys for sure.
God, it's frustrating.
Ebron is tied for the NFL league with 12 touchdowns with Tyreek Hill. So
he's a monster.
He's balling out. He's got some injuries, but I'm not worried about it because there was that one game that Jack Doyle sat that he had like 4 injuries and he still played. I mean, he's a big boy.
And I think he's going for that. Like, I think he's going for a payday.
Yeah. While we're talking about it, the one that we need to be concerned about is T.Y. Hilton has a groin. That. I can't say that word, guys.
Groin injury. Groin. Not groin.
Groin. I can't say that word, guys. But it's a new injury, so that's definitely concerning. Jalen Ramsey's probably going to sit out that game. The Jags fired their offensive coordinator. They are sitting Blake Bortles and starting Cody Kessler. Leonard Fournette
is that for sure now?
Yes, that's for sure. He's probably going to be their quarterback for the rest of the season. And Leonard Fournette is sitting out because he threw punches last week. Jalen Ramsey's probably going to be out.
Not sitting out.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's right. And he's appealing it. Did they come up with anything with the appeal?
Appeal was denied.
Yep.
Yeah, because he threw punches. So I mean, the Colts are going into a decimated Jags situation. It should be a good situation for the Colts.
Does Carlos Hyde interest you at all?
Yes,
because he was complaining about his touches. Do you think that's going to like fire him up? And
well, I think he's going to have plenty of touches this week.
Right. Well, who's the other? TJ Yeldon.
TJ Yeldon. So I think Yeldon will be more involved if they get into a negative game script because he'll catch more passes. Carlos Hyde is not the big pass catching back, so I think they'll both be involved. You say Carlos Hyde over TJ Yeldon?
If you had to start one or the other.
Yes, I'll go Carlos.
Okay, and I'd stick with John on that one. I haven't looked into that situation too much. I think you could probably play both.
The only thing that I would say, just to like counter that point at all, is the fact that the Colts are hot right now. They might get up, and then you've got to throw the ball. So are they going to dump it down to him? Because I don't know. I don't know if
that's what I'm thinking.
I don't know if the Colts can cover him, but I also don't know any wide receivers on the Jags. So.
Well, they've got Keelan Cole, and they've got who's the guy that was the Colt last year? Dante Moncrief.
Oh,
and he tore us up when they played us
earlier in the season.
Yeah, so that's
Day Westbrook too.
D.D. Westbrook, yeah. Who knows who Cody Kessler's going to throw to?
But I think they could check down to TJ. I think TJ could be a little bit more.
That's what I'm thinking.
Interesting value in PPR.
That's what I'm thinking. Marvin Jones Jr. got put on IR from the Lions. That's been a hit to a lot of people. Who's been a kind of a solid wide receiver too. Slight bump to Theo Riddick, who we told everybody to play on Thanksgiving, and he got 14 PPR points, so that was good. And looking at Bruce Ellington.
That was the Bears-Lions game, wasn't it?
Yes.
Dude, I'm telling you that for probably 3/4 of that game is one of the most boring games I'd ever watched in my life.
I thought the score was going to be 6-3.
I was literally
boring.
I was sitting there. Eating dinner. The TV is probably as far away from us as this TV is right here because we had like a real long table, and I was just sitting there like all fired up because I was hungover from Blackout Wednesday, and I was looking over at it, and I was like, this is just like I was wanting something a little bit higher energy. I'm not high energy right now, and I ended up passing out for a nap for a little bit after dinner. Go ahead, sorry.
No, it's a boost to Kenny Galladay. I mean, remember when they had Golden Tate and when they had Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay and they kind of all shared wide receiver one duties? Well, now it's Galladay all the way. And but Bruce Ellington is going to take over for the slot there. He's had a couple good weeks. And Matthew Stafford is top 5 in targeting slot wide receivers since Calvin Johnson retired. So I think that's definitely in a PPR setting. I think that's something to look at if you need help. So Melvin Gordon, we were talking about this when we were getting set up. He was urged to not play and pushed to play. He pushed. He wanted to play. I mean, they're playing the Cardinals at home. Geez, they won, 45-10? They scored 45 unanswered points. You don't need Melvin Gordon out there. I think, and we had a Discord about this on Twitter. I don't know. What do you think about it, John? I think the team should be able to come on and say, hey, I know you want to play, but that injury that he had, it was a new knee injury from Wednesday. It was a re-aggravation of a hamstring injury. I don't think he should have been out there. And then on the play that he got hurt, it was a double freaking reverse, which I'm not a fan of that play unless you have like Curtis Samuel or somebody with some serious jets running the play, because it takes so long to develop, and the defense is all on the wrong side of the line of scrimmage by the time it gets to the guys, the ball in the guy's hands. And it went to Eckler. It went to Gordon, and then it went to Eckler, and while they were handing it off, they went to tackle Eckler and rolled over Gordon's knee. He has a MCL sprain, which is a partial tear, really. I mean, you probably won't see him. I don't think you'll see him for the fantasy playoffs. And
if you listen to Paulie Sleepers and Juice in the Morning, you probably have stashed Eckler, because he was not stashed by a lot of people.
You have him on one of your teams, because we said pick him up a long time ago.
And I have the extra space.
Thanks for reminding. Name drop. We said to pick that guy up. He's definitely high value right now. And Dr. Jesse Morse is kind of my go-to doc for Twitter. He does little videos where he brings out the anatomy and talks about the injury. And one thing that he brought up was, this was the Doug Baldwin injury that slowed him coming out of training camp and in the starting of the season. Remember how slow he started? And this ligament is more necessary for a running back to cut. So if you saw how long, weeks and weeks and weeks for Doug Baldwin to get right, I wouldn't be expecting any Melvin Gordon this year. And I know that, John, you have him in one of your leagues and you're not too happy about it. Did you stash Eckler as the handcuff?
I did not stash Eckler, but I had Joe Mixon, James Conner, Nick Chubb, and Gus Edwards on my team.
So you're doing pretty good in running back.
You've got some running back depth. That's good.
I had some depth. So.
You don't always need the handcuff.
Which is insane, because there's very few teams, at least in the 3 leagues that I'm in, that have running back depth. It's something I noticed while looking at the records and looking at the playoffs coming up. The teams that are at the top have at least 1 star running back or 2.
Yeah.
And that's the ones that are winning.
Yeah. And I tweeted that out the other day too, RIP 0 RB strategy. Right. You need, I think that the top 10 or maybe even the top 12 consensus picks next year will all be running backs. I just can't wait
till it shifts again, though, and then I'm going to be super pissed then.
Yeah.
Because it's going to happen.
Yeah. You know what? I've played through it and didn't shift when it shifted, and it's always worked out for me. Even when it became a passing league, we're going to go over it here in a little bit. There's still tons of wide receivers on the waiver wire to pick up. There's so much depth. There's not depth at the running back position. My next notes were, please stop making Andrew Luck a wide receiver. So
sorry, I jumped the gun on that one.
Jumped the gun on that one. No, it's okay. The Brown slot that Freddie Kitchens has started here in Cleveland is very exciting. I don't know if you guys watched that game, but Baker Mayfield started off 2 weeks ago 18 of 18, and last week he started off, I think, 18 of 21. They're running the full house, which I love the full house set. I've been saying it for years. A team needs to.
It's real fun to use in Madden too.
Oh yeah, exactly. If you have an athletic wide receiver and if you have 2 versatile running backs, you can run the full house, and it really messes up defenses. And they're running that about 40% of the time. It's a completely different team with the new coaching staff and Freddie Kitchens calling the plays. And Njoku had a touchdown catch where he was basically above shoulder level and got carried into the end zone by the Bengals. When the Browns realized that he was up in the air and kind of teetering on some shoulders, they kind of pushed him into the end zone. It was one of the most amazing things I ever saw. And then a couple drives later, Nick Chubb caught a ball around the guy's head.
I saw that.
And caught it off the back of his neck and pulled him into the end zone and held on to it. That team is super exciting. So I wanted to bring up the Brown slot. And
could they possibly be the team that everybody's hot for next year?
Yeah, there were a lot of people that were hot for their, situation going into this year. Yeah.
Unless they hire Condoleezza Rice as head coach.
Right. Right. That was somebody completed the troll of the century on that. They got Adam Schefter to talk about it. They got the Washington Post, USA Today.
I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
Oh, it came out that Condoleezza Rice was going to be interviewed for the head coaching
position.
Adam Schefter tweeted it, and it was in all these major news articles and everything, and it's not true. So somebody completed a huge troll job there. But the guy that hurts here is Jarvis Landry. Was getting 10 to 14 targets a game since Kitchen has taken over. He's getting 6 targets a game. So if you're thinking, Jarvis Landry or somebody else, you might want to start somebody else. He's kind of a persona non grata in this new offense. So Rex Burkhead is back. Let's talk about handcuffs for a minute, because John and I have talked a lot about Spencer Ware and Malcolm Brown, and that's because I feel like those are the guys that would be the most fantasy relevant if their corresponding starters would go down. But all these other guys, you probably want to handcuff them too. I mean, if Zeke goes down, it's Rod Smith. Right now we have Eckler. If Christian McCaffrey goes down, it's Cameron Artis-Payne. And right now, if you own James White or Sony Michel, you should probably pick up Rex Burkhead. You should just handcuff your guys. I'm not a proponent of drafting handcuffs at all, but later on in the season, it's got to be done. I mean, if you've done everything to get to your playoffs and you've secured everything and everything's wrapped up, in a nice little bow, and then Zeke is your main guy and he goes down, and you don't have Rod Smith and you don't have depth, you're screwed. So I wanted to talk about that for a minute. I want to talk about some duds from last week. Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham Jr., and my guy Alvin Kamara.
Kamara let us down, but it's like the first time the entire season, right?
Yeah, I know. He's got us so many wins.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at him, and they got the win.
Right.
So he's not mad. He just wants to win football.
Did Ingram score?
Mark Ingram last week?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I believe he did.
Yeah, I think he did. So Juju Smith-Schuster just turned 22 years old, and he's the only wide receiver in history with 2 97-yard touchdowns.
Come on. Get 99. Like, come on.
That's like
that extra 3 yards.
You're the only person that would respond with that. I mean, you need a couple yards to have room to set up
for a better record.
But it was just amazing. And then speaking of 97-yard touchdowns, Lamar Miller had one against the Titans the other night.
I saw you lamenting that fact on Twitter.
Well, Lamar Miller is the first running back to have a 97-yard touchdown since Lamar Miller in 2014. I'm not shitting you.
I completely remember that now.
I'm not.
Because I think I owned him in 2014.
It's absolutely amazing. I also tweeted out, because they've been doing a lot of this, like the checking the players' speeds and the top speeds of the week.
It's one of my favorite things.
And Vernon Davis and Lamar Miller had 2 of the top 5 speeds of the week. They can both still run 21 miles per hour.
That's insane.
Vernon Davis and Lamar Miller. So there were a lot of 97-yard touchdowns this week, and the Juju stat being 22 years old and being the first wide receiver to do that, and then the Lamar Miller stat that he's the first running back to do that since Lamar Miller. I mean, Jesus.
It's kind of like a Khalil Mack record.
Yeah, he still is the only defensive player to go to the Pro Bowl under 2 defensive positions.
Well, he was named All-Pro, not Pro Bowl.
All-Pro is a little better.
And then he also did, what was it, the strip sack fumble and a touchdown or something like that?
Yes, and he was the first player to do that since...
That's right.
Yeah. He was the first player to do that since he did it the last time. Christian McCaffrey had 240 yards from scrimmage.
Loving that trade.
2 touchdowns.
I traded him for Antonio Brown.
Oh, God, yeah. That's looking good
Loving
now.
it.
And that happened after they vetoed your trade, right?
So they're pissed.
They did you a favor.
They got me into 4th place.
They did you a favor by vetoing that trade. Those bastards don't veto. But that actually helped you out. He could have had a 3rd touchdown, and I couldn't believe it. After the 60-yard scamper.
I thought he was getting in, too.
Well, Shaquille Griffin runs a 4.3. So
that guy...
Did you see him looking up at the Jumbotron? Because he could see that he was chasing it down.
without an arm, like part of an arm.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that kind of gave him an advantage.
Because he has less body mass, so he can run faster.
Yes, that's
Dude,
immediately see what
You're
I'm going with.
You're going to hell for that.
Isn't that the wrong guy though? His brother plays on that team too.
No, it's definitely the guy with the arm issue was the one who chased down McCaffrey.
I didn't see that
I
part.
definitely saw it.
That I don't know, but I know that he runs a 4.3 and he caught
He's
him.
super fast.
But this is what Christian McCaffrey owners need to like. Like everybody and their mother would be sitting out on the next play and catching their breath. He was in on the next play and the next play after that and the next play after that. Dove and almost scored a third time, but he actually
get
fumbled.
to watch my fantasy players play well. It's fun.
He had 50 fantasy points, 50 PPR fantasy points.
It depends on the league you're in, but
Yeah.
because I had 46.
Oh, okay.
I was pretty pissed. Like, come on, give
So
50.
in the first 6 games, he had 1 touchdown. In the last 6 games, he's had 9 touchdowns. So shout out to Jason Moore from the Fantasy Footballers for saying in the preseason that, Norv Turner favors a workhorse back, that McCaffrey can be that workhorse back.
And I'll go ahead and admit it. I was actually down on McCaffrey. I was telling you guys that I didn't think he was going to be that good.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep.
And he's a freaking stud.
Eating my words and loving winning games.
Drew Brees has people that you've never heard of to still throw to and throw touchdowns. There were 4 guys last week. We kept talking about it. I was like, nope, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know who that guy is. He threw, and like Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara owners are just like, what the is going on right now?
All right, I'm not getting there. I'm not going to go to the Colts homer thing where Breeze only has like 2 or 3 or 1 or 2 touchdowns more than Andrew Luck and 30 yards more than Andrew Luck.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, they're both balling out.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, it's amazing, and he did this the week before too. He's throwing to guys that, like, people like me that spend a lot of time doing this are like, who is this guy?
That's definitely game script though, right? Because then that's the coaches knowing that these guys, he can get the ball to these guys. The defenses aren't game planning for these guys. They're game planning for all the other the weapons he has.
Part of it is Traquan Smith being injured, and then when Cameron Meredith went down, they tried to pick up Dez and put him in that spot. That didn't work out. Now they're trying to bring Brandon Marshall along. So between Dez and Brandon Marshall and Traquan Smith being hurt, there's just guys out there that we've never heard of that are catching touchdowns. It's amazing. So shout out to us, me and John, for collectively telling everybody to get Dak Prescott and trade for Amari Cooper.
He balled out as well.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Amari Cooper balled out.
Yeah. He we now know what like scorched AstroTurf smells like because of Amari Cooper's 8 for 180 and 2.
And I kept saying, that's another one. I was like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, Dak went out. Dak went off. I was talking about his playoff schedule and saying he was a stash a while back. Amari Cooper, before he even got traded, John said that he was a stash. And then when he got traded, he was sitting on waiver wires, and we said, pick this dude up. These guys, if you got that stack, if you got the Dak Amari stack, that's just amazing. So other breaking news is Lamar Jackson is going to be the starter this week. Kind of interesting that before they brought Lamar Jackson in, they when Flacco had the hip, they said that he didn't need to practice to play. But this week they said that he would have to put in a full week of practice to play. Isn't that interesting? How that changes?
They don't know what they're talking about.
I think that they're just ready to move on. They're 2.
But they don't want to say they're moving on.
Right. They're 2-0 now with Lamar Jackson.
He only has a little over 300 yards in 2 games though, passing. So I think that a lot of fantasy owners are a little bit worried about that consistency.
Well,
are they going to actually take the reins off and let him throw it a little bit, or are they going to just kind of keep with what they're doing?
I don't want them to rein him in on running because that's why.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, are they going to keep calling? Because he had a lot of designed runs for him as well.
Yes. Well, he went from 27 runs, which was a record.
Because he has an arm on him.
Last week he had 11 for 77, and he scored. He scored on the ground and in the air last week. He was a good play again. This week he gets Atlanta. Atlanta's defense is
I got to get Red Zone back because I can't actually watch any of these players.
Yeah, Red Zone is amazing.
I just hear everybody talking about him.
But him and Gus Edwards had another good week too, and that was a pickup of John's last week. Go pick up Gus Edwards. basically we're a week ahead of the curve. If you watch, Matthew Berry and those guys, a week after we said pick up Lamar Jackson,
they're all in on Gus Edwards now.
Yeah, and we said
we were all in 2 weeks ago.
We said Josh Adams and Gus Edwards, and now they're saying Josh Adams and Gus Edwards. So, the casual fan is still what we're talking to, but there's no reason why, as the casual fan, you can't get an advantage.
And we're giving you an advantage.
And I think that we're offering that. I mean, geez, we haven't made every call right, and when we make them wrong, we will admit it. But last week, DraftKings, for me and Jackson, DraftKings, all the first looks that we talked about in the podcast for Jackson that I just rattled off the phone that was in text, they were amazing, except for Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham, which you can't, predict that.
Can't ever expect that.
And then I told everybody to stack Cam with Christian McCaffrey.
That worked out.
And Baker Mayfield with David Njoku and Nick Chubb. And then mentioned DJ Moore and Juju Smith-Schuster and Matt Beretta and a bunch of other good plays.
If you put together some teams,
I'm telling you. Yeah, but the only reason why we didn't smash and cash last week was because of Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham. And you can't predict that those guys aren't going to do well. I mean,
those assholes. Just kidding.
But we did okay. We definitely did okay. And Jackson's cash line smashed at 180 points. I had a few lineups at 180 points. And then John's pickups of the week were all great too. Cameron Brate, even Herndon. He had 7 for 70, right?
Herndon, yeah.
And we said pick up Gus Edwards and Josh Adams, who both did well. We said pick up Dak Prescott and Lamar Jackson. Basically, all of our shit was awesome last week. So we're great. I'm done patting myself on the back. But we did have some.
Are we going to questions?
Questions, yes. So we're done with the news, guys.
So I want to lead off with my question that Paulie and I have talked about one-on-one a couple of times, but I also want to hear John's take because I respect your opinion.
Okay.
So we were talking a couple weeks back about the Broncos D having a really good matchup schedule for your playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I've had the Bears defense for all season, and it's been pretty stout, scored a lot of points for me because they're scoring a lot of points on defense. So I have both now. Both have pretty cush matchups this week. I think the Bears face the Giants.
Yes.
And then the Broncos face...
At Cincinnati. With just losing their starting quarterback.
So the Broncos are playing away?
I don't know where...
They're both playing away.
Both away defenses.
Yeah. It's an easy answer. I mean, we told everybody the Broncos were the good stash because they've got Cincy. Then for the fantasy playoffs, they've got San Francisco, Cleveland, and Oakland. Cleveland might be one that you might want to fade, but 3 out of the next 4 weeks are good. The Bears are the number one fantasy defense, and they've scored 4 times in the last 4 weeks.
So you got to keep going with the hot hand, right?
They've scored 4 times in the last 4 weeks. That's what you want from your defense. Right. And Eli Manning will throw picks. So,
and do you think they're just going to get after him? I mean, he's slow. He can't. He can't move in the pocket.
Yeah, it's going to be ridiculous.
It's going to be a bloodbath.
it's going to be a bloodbath.
Hopefully, anyways.
They're going to double team Odell, and then they're going to.
So then you would think then next week Denver.
And I don't know who Chicago plays next week. I mean, I'd probably keep playing Chicago too.
It's tough. Yeah. So then, I just am wasting a spot. So I need to just drop the Denver defense.
I definitely, even though
I was trying to be cute and follow our.
Yeah, I advocated advice. Picking him up, but I would have, if I would have known you had the Bears, I would have said, you don't have to worry about that.
Well, the other thing is you got the Broncos defense on your team,
so that somebody else can't use them.
Have them,
right?
Very, very, very true.
Very shrewd advice.
There, John. And Bronco Becca was saying that today. She was saying, "Well, I'm not gonna carry 3 quarterbacks." I forget the exact situation, and I said, "Hey, why not?" In one of my leagues, I'm carrying 3 quarterbacks and 3 defenses to keep my opponents from streaming quarterbacks and streaming defenses. I mean, the advice that I give at the beginning of the year is totally different at the end of the year.
Completely flip the script.
It does. I don't handcuff. I say draft one quarterback. I say draft 1 defense at the very end who has a good matchup the first week and just plan on streaming. At the end of the year, I say get your handcuffs. I say load up on quarterbacks so your opponents can't stream. Load up on defenses so your opponents can't stream. Anyway, I picked this up listening to the Fantasy Footballers. There's another injury. Kerryon Johnson, who missed last week. Andy Holloway is speculating that he might get shelved for the year. He's not practicing, and they're out of it. So a lot of times, you got to watch out. We talked about a bunch of injuries, but actually I didn't cover all of them. There's not time to cover all of them. Watch out, because some of these teams, they're stud players that, if there's injuries, they might just sit them out. It happens because they're done, and they want to protect their franchise. But do you like T.Y. Hilton or Emmanuel Sanders better this week? So this is from Mike Hoff, and this is a tough decision. Now, T.Y. Hilton has the groin. So I would say Sanders, unless Hilton plays and he looks good and he starts practicing without Jalen Ramsey in there. I think Hilton is the play over Emmanuel Sanders, but Emmanuel Sanders is going against Cincy. They suck. I think they're both really good matchups. If you've got a tight one like this, I always say the tie goes to the guy that wasn't missing practice and wasn't hurt. John, who do you think, Emmanuel Sanders or T.Y. Hilton this week?
I would go Sanders too, just to be safe, because you don't know, if they're going to limit his snaps for T.Y. Hilton, that might just put him out there for like special occasions, third and long, whatever.
Decoy.
Yep. So
groin.
Go with the guy who's not injured.
Groin. So Mike Hoff, I actually answered his question and said T.Y. And then later on, when I heard about the groin and he wasn't practicing, I came back and said, you know what? I think I better go Sanders now. We were going to talk about this combo here. So he's got obviously Eckler, Chubb, and Connor. So does he start Connor and Eckler, Chubb and Connor, or Eckler and Chubb?
Chubb and Connor.
Chubb and Connor.
Yeah.
I say Eckler and Chubb.
You say Eckler and Chubb?
I'd say Eckler in his flex if he has that option. But, you can't sit Chubb after the weeks that he's had.
And you can't sit James.
I said Eckler and Chubb.
Yeah, but then you're sitting James Conner. Then you're sitting James Conner.
I'm all right with that.
You're all right with that?
I hate the Steelers.
There's a little bias there.
Sorry, Joey Bag of Donuts.
He's only had like one game under 15 points.
I don't care. I think it's gonna. Okay, so I think it's gonna happen this week. I think it's gonna happen again. He's gonna have
Connor gets.
He's gonna have 14 or less.
All right.
If you want to put a bet on it,
they play Baltimore, right?
I thought they played the Chargers.
Oh no, that's right. The Falcons play Baltimore. They play the Chargers. Yeah,
we could just put like a small.
Chargers have the 27th rated run defense. So.
Not worried about it. Not worried about it.
It's a good hot take.
Hot take. Sit James Conner.
Sit him down.
Shelve his ass. Lindsay Harfield, who we mentioned last week. Shout out to Lindsay. She said she's worried that they're going to hold Trubisky out.
They are.
Yeah, actually, she broke this news for me. I didn't know that. I had to go in and look, and I was like, oh shit, he might not play. Do I roll Mayfield or do I grab Marcus Mariota?
Mayfield.
So Mayfield has a tough matchup, is what I told her at Houston, but their offense is designed to get rid of the ball quickly, which should negate that pass rush, and also that could get that game could shoot out.
Yes.
And who's Tennessee play?
Tennessee plays the Jets. Horrible run defense.
Boring game.
So that means that Tennessee might be running a lot. I think that game could be like shitty, bang, bang, and not score a lot. Snooze fest. So I said stick with Mayfield. And hey, ESPN, give kickers the boot. So at ESPN and tell them how you feel.
Don't kick the kickers.
Yeah, Juice likes the kickers, but
I do enjoy it.
Who's our boy from ESPN? Matthew Berry tweeted out this week, should the standard settings just get rid of kickers? And there's been a huge discord about it. So I'm trying to get what do you not like about kickers? The randomness.
The fact that you have to pick a good one for them to score points, like the rest of fantasy football.
Okay, so no, it's so random, people go for it a lot more now. People go for it and you don't even get the extra point anymore because they're going for 2.
Right.
Some Yahoo jumps up and gets his fingertips on your 48-yarder and you lose points because a lot of them are set up so you get minus points.
So then you could adjust your scoring
and
still keep them.
It's just the most random thing in the world. I say give him the boot and add another flex spot and have more fun with offense. But yeah, Juice, man, you're gonna die on that cross. That's cool.
Yeah.
Juice doesn't like it. So I'm starting to try to start the hashtag give kickers the boot. Hey ESPN, give kickers the boot. On to more questions. I'm just scrolling through my phone here, so there's some random shit. Alduro Maria at Scout Aldumo says, who should I start as my wide receiver 2 this week? He has Adams as his wide receiver 1. Josh Reynolds at Detroit. Demarius Thomas versus Cleveland. Sammy Watkins, who has a foot injury that I didn't talk about. He's not practicing. And DJ Moore at Tampa Bay. DJ Moore has a good matchup. Devin Funchess is probably going to sit, and Curtis Samuel is missing practice. Demarius Thomas blew up last week, had a couple touchdowns when Tennessee was doubling Nuke. And Josh Reynolds,
on my bench as well.
Josh Reynolds, who's filling in the slot for the IR'd Cooper Kupp. So what do you think, John? I think Watkins is out of there. So Josh Reynolds, Demarius Thomas, or DJ Moore.
I like DJ Moore against Tampa Bay. Their defense has been terrible all year, and DJ Moore's really coming into his own right now. So
I like Josh Reynolds on the whole, but I agree with you. DJ Moore is the pickup here at Tampa Bay. Their secondary sucks, and DJ Moore is good, man. Like, he was one of my top rookie wide receivers.
I'm just going to go out there and say this. The reason I'm picking a lot of the players I'm picking is because I own them.
Right. Tom Brady or Kirk Cousins? They play each other this week. So do I play Tom Brady or Kirk Cousins? This is another podcast, the 2-on-1 Fantasy Football Podcast, asking this question. I think you play Kirk Cousins.
Going with Kirk Cousins.
I would pick up a new quarterback.
So
you wouldn't play either one of them?
No.
Kirk's been pretty good.
New England Patriots have the number 2 overall defense
on Monday.
And the Minnesota Vikings have the number 4 overall rated defense. So
you'd play like Baker or Dak if they're out there. Would you play Case Keenum though? Like,
no.
In a lot of leagues, he's the only one that you could really stream this week.
Josh Allen.
Jameis Winston.
Josh, you're playing Josh Allen over Tom Brady and Kirk Cousins? Mm-hmm. Oh, Jesus, dude. What is this world coming to?
Did you even hear me, the Jameis Winston, the stat you brought up where he's a top 10 quarterback?
Yeah, but he's not available to pick up, though.
I bet he is.
No, he's owned.
Jameis Winston?
Yeah.
He's been dropped in a couple leagues.
He's owned. You can vet that, John, please. Jameis Winston is 70%
So
owned,
you're basically,
a
lot of your questions are exactly what I'm going to ask, but just with different players.
Oh, okay. So I was also going to give a shout out to Travis Finkel from the Fantasy Pros, who gave this interesting stat. This is a cautionary tale for Gus Edwards pickups. He's positive game script dependent. He has 0 targets in 2 games, so for PPR, that's tough. And he could be phased out playing Atlanta, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, and the Chargers in the next 4 games. If those games go the wrong way, without getting the targets and getting the passing game work, he can get phased out. So I do like Gus Edwards, but this dude works for Fantasy Pros. He knows what he's talking about. I asked him if I could mention him on the podcast. He said, sure, go for it. I think that's all I had. You had a few questions?
Yeah, so I want to do a quick. So I didn't steal this from another podcast because I wanted to steal their idea or their intellectual property. I stole it because I want to kind of just get your guys' answer and just kind of go through this and see how quickly you guys can answer some of these. So it's called a name game. So I'm going to name a wide receiver. And when I name the wide receiver, I'm going to put somebody up against him. You guys are both going to determine who you like best out of the 2.
They do that on the Fantasy Footballers too.
And then I'm going to move him to the next guy that I'm going to put him up against. And I'm going to go through my wide receivers that I have for the Yahoo Fantasy
Jameis
Sports.
Winston is 58% owned, so it's probably,
a little less than
that.
Or actually a lot less. Well,
less 42%. Than I thought.
Anyways, so I'm going to start. Tyler Boyd, Josh Reynolds.
Tyler Boyd.
Tyler Boyd, Josh Gordon. Tyler
Tyler Boyd.
Xavier Rhodes isn't practicing, so that's dependent on whether he plays. Tyler Boyd.
And so we're just gonna go ahead and make sure that we said Tyler Boyd for that one. Now we're gonna drop down to, okay, how about Cortland Sutton, Kiki Kuti.
Cortland Sutton. QT has a hamstring and he won't play this week.
Won't play this week, but I mean, I'm talking about for next week and possibly playoffs.
He had that hammy already. I think he's going to miss some time. I like Cortland Sutton's been getting a lot of targets.
And then Cortland Sutton, since for a flex position, Cortland Sutton, Jalen Richard.
Cortland Sutton.
Okay, Sutton and Peyton Barber.
Cortland Sutton.
All right, so I know
Peyton Barber.
Peyton Barber.
Yeah.
All right, and then the last thing I want to do really quick. What are you guys' thoughts on me rolling out Rob Gronkowski and Ebron in the same week?
Well, who are your other choices for
Gronk
the
is
flex?
going against Minnesota. Ebron's going against Jacksonville. My flexes that I could start are Kiki Kuti, Cortland Sutton, Deshaun Jackson, Jalen Richard, or Peyton Barber.
Yeah, do it, man.
Gronk and Ebron.
D-Jax is seeing a hand specialist. He might not play. QT's got a hammy. He's probably not going to play. Sutton is all potential right now. He's he's getting targets galore. He should be doing great. He's not.
So then, Josh Gordon, Cortland Sutton.
Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
But I think you could roll both of your tight ends there. Definitely.
Okay,
Definitely.
so
just win, baby.
real quick, just going to run through this. Aaron Rodgers, Tyler Boyd, Josh Reynolds, Josh Gordon, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Rob Gronkowski, Eric Ebron. Bears defense, Steven Gostkowski.
Do it, man. That sounds good.
Think that's good?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
Pause it. We got to call Jackson. It's time.
I was going to show you these Josh Allen numbers from.
Join us, Jackson.
On the phone, Jackson Mears, OG Paulie Sleepers contributor, usually in the studio with us. And you've been studying, man. Are you doing good in school? Did you do good in school? Did you learn a lot?
I only have one class, but I mean it's called a capstone class where you work on a project for a organization or business.
I had one of those. It was fun.
It's fun, but it's so much work and effort.
But it kind of sucks because you're not getting paid.
Yeah, that's for the amount of research and the amount of time that goes into it. The good part is hopefully it pays off with you graduate and you get a job. So that's
for sure.
That's all that matters.
So I thought that we would review last week, Jackson, because we were just all around it. We were all knocking on the door all around it. Your cash line was 180 something. I had 2 lineups, 180 something, several lineups in the 160s, a bunch of lineups to cash. Like some of the people that play our lineups from Twitter were smart enough not to play my Nick Mullins and Eli Manning dart throws. So they did great because they played, our lineups that hit, and it was Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham that kind of shit the bed. I listened back to last week. I gave your kind of first look from the podcast and my first look, and like everything we said was gold, man. I mean, we really had a pretty good DraftKings week.
Yeah, I mean, like when we did the podcast on Tuesday, of last week because of the holiday, and I've been focusing so much on school. You shot me a text and be like, hey, who is your first look? Like, who do you look at? And literally, I just went through matchups and prices, and I never wavered off it. I never did any more research because I went to Texas. I just I found what I liked. I found what I knew were good matchups with all the research I'd done earlier in the year, and it paid off. I mean, that's the most gratifying feeling. I mean, I made a lineup because we were an hour behind in Texas, so games locked at noon, and I made a lineup at 11:30, and the damn thing pulled a 174.
That's a good score. And I was talking about that all the time that we put into it, and I did the same thing this week. I just looked at it and was like, just what's jumping out at me matchup-wise and player-wise and game script and all those things we always talk about and think about, target share. We know all that already, so we should be able to rattle off a pretty good lineup without having to scratch our heads and dive into it too deeply. It should just come to...
there wasn't too much scratch my head. I mean, the only thing I was scratching my head for was I had a damn hangover from the gentleman's club we went to, and
they spent a lot of time at a strip club with Grandpa.
It was so much fun.
That's probably one of the best times ever.
I know, doesn't it sound great? I would have been like,
I've never seen the look in my grandfather's eyes that I saw. I mean,
it's got to be a little bit disturbing, right?
It was disturbing, but I mean, it honestly was it created conversation for the next day and the next day, and it just.
No, it'll be something you'll remember forever, man.
Oh my God! So
who do you like this week, man?
But yeah, so this week I'm looking at quarterback. I'm locking on Andrew Luck. We had this matchup 3 weeks ago. We had this matchup 3 weeks ago when they played the Jags, and we were like, "Damn, he's only 5,500. Like, can we still do it?" And we were like, "You know what? Let's not go against. Let's go against it. Let's see how he does." And the dude went for 4 touchdowns. I mean. But the Jags rank 8th in DVP versus the pass. Over the past 4 weeks, they've allowed 10 total touchdowns to quarterbacks. Luck has 8 straight games. As everybody already knows, of 3 or more touchdowns, he has yet to score below 22.2 DK points since week 4.
He's on a tear. There's a cool thing about that stat. He's tied for second of all time with that 8 game streak with Peyton Manning.
Yeah, I mean, it's just what he's doing now, and it's a team. It's not just an individual. It's a team effort. And
DraftKings has this way of pricing down players against the Jags, and they really overvalue that Jags defense, in my opinion, and especially with all the tumult over there. Turmoil.
Yeah.
I think tumult is close.
Okay.
Tumultuous.
I think tumultuous. Yeah. So you could say tumult.
It's good.
It's the
I like it.
it's the singular of tumultuous.
They do the same thing when we had the Minnesota and Rams game earlier in the year. I mean, everyone was vastly underpriced, and I just made a complete stack of both teams.
Yeah.
And I pulled a 230 lineup. But I mean, the DraftKings on how their algorithm goes, any teams playing against Minnesota, LA, or the Jags, they get priced down because it's like, hey, they're a really good defensive team. But each one of those teams has a funnel to where you can target. So, and this week we're going to target the Jags defense with Andrew Luck.
And Andrew Luck is $100 less than Lamar Jackson on DraftKings this week. And people won't play him because he's got like a big red number 3 matchup wise. But I mean, like I said, and like
I ain't scared.
He threw 4 touchdowns against them just a few weeks ago.
The biggest thing with Luck too this week is that with the Marlon Mack concussion, I mean, even if he does come back and play, he's not fully healthy. He's not fully 100% recovered.
Might be a Nyheim Hines week.
Yeah, it really could be. But with Fournette being suspended, you definitely got to look at ball control on the other side won't be there. And then with Jalen Ramsey being looks to be out with an injury, I mean, you can target the middle of the field and the perimeter. So I mean, I think it's just a great week to.
I completely agree, especially with Jalen Ramsey probably missing. They're saying he's probably going to miss. Now in tournament plays, I want to look at a pool of probably 3 or 4 quarterbacks this week. Last week, I went a little crazy and did like 6. Is there any reason to do anybody other than Andrew Luck and Cash this week? Any reason at all?
No, not at all.
So you're locked in on Luck, right?
Yeah, I mean, the only person I think you could pivot off to would be going to Lamar Jackson just because of the floor he presents.
Yeah, but it's it's so much more of a risky play.
Yeah, and here's the thing: there's a 2-game sample size now.
Right.
Him playing quarterback, and he hasn't lit the world on fire throwing the ball.
Right. It's just been his feet. Now I'll be playing Lamar Jackson in tournaments. I'll also be playing Cam Newton at Tampa Bay because they're horrible. I'm also going to play Baker Mayfield at Houston because he's priced down to 5,600. Oh, dude, that just got really weird.
Sorry,
that all got sucky.
We're good.
Okay. Yeah, quit whatever you're doing.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. Stop doing that, Juice. Baker Mayfield, 5,600 at Houston. I think that people will pass on that with him on the road, and I think that offense can get through the pass rush. Andrew Luck, and I'll be playing those guys. I mean, Jameis Winston's also, a good play on the other side of the ball against Carolina. So those are my quarterbacks: Andrew Luck, Jameis Winston, Lamar Jackson, Cam Newton, Baker Mayfield. But Andrew Luck, I'll be really keying in on that too.
The only other people I would consider would be Deshaun Watson. He's only $300 more than Luck, and I mean we know what his upside is. It's as high as any quarterback in the slate. And then also looking at Kirk Cousins versus New England. If that game shoots, he's stupid underpriced at $5,500. And then if you want a tournament dart throw, kind of like how you did with Mullins last week, Manning, it's Cody Kessler. He's a USC alum. He came in week 7 versus Houston and put up 10 DK points in a half. You pair him with Dante Moncrief. He was targeted 6 times in that game, so we have a little bit of a sample size. So for
Moncrief also did really well against the Colts last time we played. We were talking about that earlier.
He did, and I mean for 9,100, you can pair both of them up, and it allows you to get some freaky things. In
a tournament dart throw, sometimes you have to do it. I like it. What about running backs this week? Who are you keying on?
Running back, I am solely looking to lock in Phillip Lindsay at 5,600. The Bengals rank 30th in DVP versus the run, and they are dead last versus the pass catching running backs. The Bengals have allowed a total of 919 rushing yards over the past 5 games.
Jesus.
That averages out to 183.8 per game. Lindsay has 20 plus DK points in 3 of the past 4 games. Last week he outtouched Devontae Freeman 14-6. So
Royce Freeman.
600. Yeah, Royce Freeman. My bad.
I like him too, and if you look and see what Nick Chubb did against Cincy just recently, and what the market share that Lindsay's been getting, and as much as Denver likes to throw the ball, he's way too cheap. He's $5,400. That's mispricing in my opinion.
Yeah. And I mean, with how the Bengals are now, I mean, going to a backup quarterback for the rest of the year, being injured up and down each line and through the middle of their defense. I mean, they're turning into what the Giants were last year. We would target them towards the end of the year, and it was like this. I mean, this is what they're becoming.
What other running backs do you like?
I like McCaffrey, 8,800. I mean, it's expensive, but the last time he played Tampa, he went for 3 touchdowns and completely broke the slate. Aaron Jones versus Arizona. Matt Breida.
Love the Aaron Jones one.
Yes.
Yeah. And I love both running backs in the San Fran Seattle game. I think you can run them both together.
Matt Breida is 5,800. Aaron Jones is a little bit more expensive. He's 6,700.
Yep.
But he's Carson against the Cardinals.
Yep.
Yeah, Aaron Jones plays the Cardinals at home. That should be a smash spot. And you know what's interesting? Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones both have birthdays on Sunday versus the Cardinals. It's both of their birthdays. Isn't that crazy?
Cake.
Both Aaron's.
Time to get some cake.
There's a comment for a daily fantasy that I was going to see if we want to ask him.
Oh, okay, sure.
Real quick from Somola. I don't know how to say it. Somowale. Basically,
Sean Mole? Yeah, he's on there a bunch, yeah.
Sean Mole has a question for you, Jax. What do you guys think of Lions stack as a sleeper? Stafford, Galladay, Ellington in GPP.
I don't think it's a bad idea whatsoever.
Against the Rams?
I don't think it's a bad idea.
They're going to have to throw a lot, and Ellington's cheap. He's $3,500. Yep. And Galladay is $6,700. I'm sure Stafford's probably $5,000 flat.
What's Paul or John? You would know more about this. What's the status on Gurley? Is he fully healthy?
Yeah, they say he's good to go.
I mean, what I would do, and this is just my opinion, I don't think you can play. I think you play the LA Detroit as a stack, like a full game stack. But I would go Stafford with Riddick and Galladay, and then run it back with Brandon Cooks and Todd Gurley.
There you go.
If he's listening, he should have just gotten your response.
There you go.
So there you go.
You can also throw Everett in that stack, who's got touchdowns in the last couple games. Really cheap, $2,700, I think. You could do Ellington for $3,500. Gurley, Cooks. You could just stack that game, and if it shoots and it hits, you're making money. So Sean, I was tweeting with Sean today, so he's a pretty cool dude. I'm glad he got in there. I love Christian McCaffrey, and I'm going to play him, and I'm not going to play any Todd Gurley this week. He's cheaper than Todd Gurley. They go against the Bucks, who are just absolutely horrible against everything. Like you said, McCaffrey scored 3 touchdowns the last time they played. I like Kareem Hunt this week, off the bye week, rested at Oakland. He's 7,800. Saquon Barkley is 7,900 this week because they have the tough Chicago matchup. But they'll throw the ball to him a lot, and I think you're getting him at a nice discount at $7,900. I don't think people will play him. I mean, when you do tournaments, you want to look at, lower owned plays that might hit, and I think people will pass up Andrew Luck and pass up Saquon Barkley and pass up some of these guys that have quote unquote bad matchups, and these really good players can play through those matchups. And also I'd like to mention that Tariq, the human joystick Cohen, is only 5,600 in that game at the Giants, so I think you could play that guy too.
Yeah, I think with that game in particular, in the Giants and Bears game, I think the only person you really I would consider playing at all would be Saquon Barkley.
Yeah,
I mean,
you hated my shady play last week, and he didn't get the score like some other schmutz got the score for the Bills, or his play would have been fine.
Yeah,
and he's 4,900 this week in a division game. I want to point out that at Miami, that his 2 best games this year have been in the division games. And Miami is horrible against the run. I think a great tournament play this week is LaShawn McCoy. Nobody will play them. So I will have a little bit of him, and I'll have a little bit of Frank Gore if Kenyon Drake sits.
Mm-hmm.
So $3,500 if Kenyon Drake sits. He's a hell of a play. Obviously, you looked at that as well. Any other running backs?
Like I said, Theo Riddick. You guys already talked about Edwards a little bit earlier about how he's not a PPR back. He's really game flow dependent.
Yeah.
Only other person I would really look at would be Lamar Miller. He's getting the touches. Obviously, he broke off that 97-yard run the other night. But I mean, he's a consistent floor of 10 points, and
Cleveland's not that good against the run.
No, I mean, we've been targeting on Paulie Sleepers. We've been targeting the running back going against Cleveland's D all year.
So what about wide receivers this week?
Yeah, transitioning to wide receiver, I'm looking at Brandon Cooks in that Detroit LA game. He's 7,000. Detroit ranks 29th in DVP versus the wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. This is an indoor game for Cooks, so this is the game where you look at and see how his speed will be a big factor on that turf compared to the natural grass he plays out at the Coliseum. Recently, Detroit has got burned by small receivers over the past 2 weeks. DJ Moore went for 7 for 157 and 1, and then Anthony Miller 5 for 122 and 1.
Wow.
Cooks has 8 targets in 4 straight games. He has scored 21.7 or more DK points in 3 of the past 4. Then he also has the 3rd best matchup according to Pro Football Focus on their wide receiver cornerback matchup chart. He has a 43% advantage over Mike Ford.
Nice.
I don't even know who Mike Ford is.
Nice. And he'll probably be matched up against Darius Slay.
No. Darius Slay will get more of either Reynolds or Woods.
Okay.
Slay can't run with Cooks.
I like Reynolds in that game, and then I like Cooks as well. I think that Woods would be the one that I would fade in that game.
Yeah.
But Josh Reynolds is only 4,900, and he scored twice the last time they played. So that's the slot guy, and I think that Goff likes targeting the slot. What other wide receivers do you like?
I think honestly that this is taking a some kahunas, I think, but I think the best play on the whole entire board for the entire weekend is Tyreek Hill at 9,100. Going against Oakland, sorry, John. He plays so well on the road, it's not even funny. And I mean, he just presents the big play factor. He can get you between 30 and 50 points any given day.
That's my top play of the week too, and it's like, like people are like, oh, yeah, Tyreek Hill, that's your play. Like, oh wow, that's that's a lot of an out. I mean, but people won't pay $9,100 for him.
No,
and
not at all.
Oakland gives up more 30+ yard plays than any team in the league. They play a lot of single. They play a lot of single high safety, and Tyreek Hill eats that single high safety up every time. And I love that play, man. I love Tyreek Hill. And last week I was jamming in Odell and Antonio Brown. This week I'm just jamming in Tyreek Hill wherever. So if he misses, then we're done. But I don't think he'll miss, especially with Sammy Watkins not playing. And that's another great tournament play, is if Sammy Watkins doesn't play, you've got Conley that scored twice in that last game, and he is super cheap this week. I like Emmanuel Sanders. You like him at Cincy for 6,300?
I think you can like anybody from Denver and Cincinnati.
Right. Mike Evans is 8,100, and Carolina has given up more wide receivers that have been in the Millionaire Maker on DraftKings than any other team. And Mike Evans is actually becoming consistent, and he does a lot better when Winston's in there. Galladay 6,700 versus the Rams is a really good play. And then our boy Julio, $7,700. I know he draws Jimmy Smith's, but he's gotten 20 DK points, 24 or more DK points the last 4 games. He's scored 3 out of the last 4 games. He's just a guy that, like, when they price him under $8,000, I don't care who he's going against, I'm going to play him. I mean, are you scared of playing Julio at 7,700?
Not at all. He's not a person that I'm going to gravitate to. With me being a cash game player, he's not a person I'm going to gravitate to, but I mean, you can't. I mean, people look at Julio and there's this narrative like he doesn't catch touchdowns. Well, that damn streak broke a couple weeks ago and he's caught 3 now.
Yeah.
And he's leading the league in receiving yards. I mean, the dude's just he's a freak. So he's matchup. There's no one that can cover him.
What about
going back to Tyreek Hill for real quick?
Yeah.
The last time he played versus Oakland in Oakland, he went for 6 for 125 and 1, and that was with Alex Smith playing.
And that's a quiet game for Tyreek, 6 for 125 and 1.
Yeah, and last time I checked, Mahomes is a better quarterback than
just a little. What about tight ends, man?
Tight ends, we're gonna go Eric Ebron,
right?
I mean, it's beautiful. But hey, quick. We'll swing back. Looking at Thielen, Diggs, Edelman, Sanders, Galladay, Corey Davis, and Adam Humphries. Wanted to kind of get that in before.
Okay, I was sorry, I didn't ask if you were done. I like Corey Davis. I like Adam Humphries. He's been just doing great, and like he's only 33% owned to an ESPN. By the way,
last time he played Carolina, he went for 30 DK points.
Oh, sweet.
That's one place you target Tampa or you target Carolina.
And he's super cheap. Sorry about that. So Eric Ebron, I think I tweeted that out. He's a cheat code. He's $4,200. He's a cheat code. He's a free space. He's chalk. He's whatever you want to call it.
The news coming out on Doyle on Monday. Had we had that news on Sunday that Doyle was out for the year, Ebron would be at least over $5,000. I mean, easily.
Also, he's priced down because he's playing the Jaguars. We've talked about it. I mean, the year that he's scored 12 touchdowns. That dude should be $5,500 or more every week, and he's only $4,200. So that's cheap. Any other tight ends you like?
Tight end, I'm looking at either Njoku or Brait, but I'm so focused in on Ebron. I mean, Jacksonville's allowed 6 touchdowns to the position since week 8. 3 of those did come to Ebron. Ebron averages 10 targets with Doyle out of the lineup. The Colts lead the league in tight end red zone targets with 28 so far on the year. And then Ebron has only scored 6.1 DK points or less only twice this year. So, I mean,
keep it up, buddy.
My other 2 tight ends are David Njoku and Cameron Brate. So we each have the same 3 tight ends. That's pretty exciting. You could stack Andrew Luck with Eric Ebron every week, any week you want. That's a great stack. What about defenses this week? And this is the thing that we, if we don't hit defenses, we usually don't hit.
The crazy part is that there's not a lot of good home defense matchups this week.
No, there's not.
But I mean, we're at the point of the year where we know who teams are and we know what they're about. And again, sorry, John, but we're going to keep picking on your Raiders. We're going to play the Chiefs defense at 2,500. Since week 8, the Chiefs have recorded 17 sacks, 4 interceptions, and 3 defensive fumble recoveries. So at 2,500, that's a free square in my opinion.
And we've been coming after them.
We've been targeting teams just going against Oakland because they their offensive line is bad and they're bad. They're bad.
They've given up.
They're bad.
Other people. I
can't wait for
Sorry,
him to
John.
just start ripping into us about how he hates the Colts.
You know what though, John? I'll give you this. You're most likely going to have a top 3 pick in the draft
for the next 5 years.
Yeah, and so when you're good and we're on this podcast, I can't wait till you just rip into us and just be.
Eventually, the tides will turn. Yes,
but the good part is our Colts will be winning Super Bowls while you're.
Speaking of the Colts, what about their defense at the Jags this week?
Hey, hold on one second though.
I'm trying to move things along, so we've got a bunch more to talk about.
I know. I made a prediction like 6 weeks ago that the Colts were going to run the table, make the playoffs, and win every game the rest of the year. I'm not wrong yet.
Not wrong
that's
yet.
Right.
That's
and I told
sure.
you were out of your goddamn mind when you made that prediction too.
There's only 2 more games on the schedule that are nerve wracking. It's Dallas and it's Houston.
Yeah,
I think we got both of them.
I think we can outshoot both. I mean,
I remember that, and I don't have that great of a memory sometimes, but I remember saying, you realize run the table means win everything, right? And yeah, they haven't lost since you said that. Jesus, well, that's a hell of a hot take. Anyway, can we please move on?
Yeah, we're good.
Good.
We are good.
No more defenses, just the Chiefs? Do you like the Colts?
Bears, Broncos, and Rams.
Boom.
I'll do the Colts at the Jags for 2,600, and the Chiefs at Oakland for 2,500, and the Broncos at Cincy for 2,700. Please, Alex. I'll do those 3.
The Colts have also been an exciting defense to watch the last few weeks.
Yeah, Darius Leonard. I can't wait to go home. He was mic'd up last week. I want to go home and listen to him mic'd up on CBS Sports mic'd.
Yeah, I think the Colts are a good play, but I mean, you look. I think better plays around them are surrounded them on DK. Would they be in the Chiefs and the Broncos?
I'm just thinking a pivot from a low ownership tournament perspective
100%.
because a lot of people will be playing the Broncos and the Chiefs, and the Colts are right in the middle of them price wise. I don't think anybody will do it, and they're playing Cody Kessler, no Leonard Fournette, new offensive game plan. I think they could eat.
There'll be a sub 5% owned defense.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking from a tournament perspective for sure.
So,
well, cool, man.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for calling in. And
I miss you guys.
We got to get you back in here.
Miss you, Jax. But you've been helping us out even in your absence, so I appreciate it. And we're gonna get that website going this week.
I'm gonna have stuff posted by Friday.
Okay, so go to pauliesleepers.com.
For it.
Go to pauliesleepers.com and check out our player pool. Also, Hilo will be emailing you. We've got Hilo Pterodactyl doing our slate, our showdown slates. So Jackson will be
everyone listening to this podcast, and even on this new app or new thing we're looking at that Paulies talked about, where you can go in, type in some stuff, and learn more and find what you want to look for. Hilo kills it. On the showdown stuff.
Yeah, Hilo is great on the articles. He's amazing.
If you want an edge to playing that showdown slate, or even just a 2 or 3 game slate, read his stuff. You will profit.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I was telling people last week, even if you don't play DraftKings, just like he just knows fantasy football. I'm so happy that he's writing for our website now.
I read his stuff and I'm like, damn, this dude's smart.
I know. It's so well written.
Take over for me, please. I'm just kidding. But
right.
Guys, it was good talking to you. You all be careful. Enjoy those beers.
Thanks, man.
Like.
So we're gonna get into the pickups.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are switching over. Why is that doing that?
I don't know. It really sucks, though.
Sorry. Hold on. We're going to mute that. Just don't listen to your headphones for a second. Like, take them off if you have to. All right, we're good. Okay, so we are going to slide right into those pickups. I'm sorry. That's the No Scrubs, right?
Yeah.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy?
I don't want no scrub. Scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me.
Everything died in the house. I got scared. I dropped my hot pocket.
All right. So, what are we doing, John?
All right. I'm going to start with quarterbacks, and a lot of the stuff is going to be stuff that you've heard us talk about already throughout the last couple of weeks. People are still out there
because they're still out there.
Yeah. Yep. So these are still guys that you should be focusing on. Lamar Jackson, he is quite a bit more owned, but he's still around 50% owned across leagues. So you got a chance.
Started him over Andy Dalton when Andy Dalton got hurt. So
that's fantastic.
Pretty happy about
that was fantastic.
Yep. Jameis Winston is still available. Not one that I really like, but he is not got a high own percentage. Baker Mayfield, 15 to 30% across all fantasy platforms.
Only?
15 to 30%.
It's kind of surprising, isn't it?
Yeah.
People are not on the Baker. I thought he was more owned than that, but people might have also dropped him because he plays Houston. So
true.
I like it. I say roll with him, man. The kid's got
he's
moxie.
Feeling dangerous.
Yeah, he's got moxie.
And then the last one I'm going to talk about is Josh Allen. He's 1.5% owned in ESPN fantasy leagues, 5 to 10% across all the other leagues. Paulie doesn't like him, I guess, but
no,
he has kind of the same floor that Lamar Jackson has. He runs the ball.
Right.
He had 99 yards and a touchdown on the ground last week.
That's huge.
160 yards and a touchdown through the air last week. So
in his first start, he had 2 rushing touchdowns. I like Josh Allen. He actually, if you go back and watch when I was still doing YouTube videos, he was my number 1 ranked quarterback in the draft. I really do like him. I don't know if I'm streaming him at Miami this week. They've got fast linebackers, Kiko Alonso,
a fucking beast. He's crazy.
I just don't see Josh Allen his upside is definitely his rushing, but he got 26 points last week. I don't see him getting any close to that this week. But in some deeper leagues and somebody that's out there, in a 12, 14 team league situations, I'm not mad at it. I would play Dak. He's still under 50% owned, and he gets New Orleans at home this week, and then he plays Philadelphia, the Colts, and the Bucks. I mean, he's got the best freaking schedule for the next 4 weeks. In some of my leagues, I'm just locking in Dak and just setting it and forgetting it. But if you like Josh Allen and I don't, there's probably about a 65% chance that I'm wrong. Yeah. So, because usually in those situations, I'm not right when I go against you. So, go ahead, man.
Moving on to running back, Gus Edwards, his ownership percentage jumped from 0% to 30% over the last week. So it's still rising, but he's still under 50% owned in some leagues. So you still got a shot at him. Josh Adams, we mentioned him again last week. Mentioning
people aren't picking up these guys, and there's been all kinds of reports that Josh Adams is going to be featured now as a featured running back in that offense, and I just don't get it. I mean, I picked him up in a couple leagues, and I was talking to one of my buddies today, and I was like, man, how did you let Adams slip by? Because it's a league I've been in for 17 years with these St. Elmo guys, and they let me pick up Josh Adams and then pick up Gus Edwards, both of them. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Yep.
So
sleeping.
People are sleeping on these guys, man, for sure. Now this week, they're like I already said, if Gus Edwards may get game scripted out, so I'm not as excited about him, but still, these guys need to be owned for sure.
Yep. And then Austin Eckler, we've already kind of talked about him throughout the podcast tonight. But 25 to 50% owned across leagues. If all those Melvin Gordon owners haven't picked him up yet, then you got to snatch him up.
Yeah.
Theo Riddick, we kind of talked about him already.
He's out there, and he's a great PPR guy.
All of those handcuffs that Paulie's already mentioned. Malcolm Brown, Spencer Ware, Rod Smith. Jalen Samuels is your James Conner handcuff. If you're unaware of that. TJ Yeldon, Carlos Hyde are both pickups this week.
TJ Yeldon and Carlos Hyde. So we were talking about that earlier. I think in a PPR league, you should play TJ Yeldon because I think they'll get behind and they'll be throwing. But Carlos Hyde could do some damage and probably get the goal line work. So in a standard league, I'd probably favor him. Nyheim Hines is only 30% owned, and if Marlon Mack sits, he's a play for sure. And then Kerryon Johnson is not practicing. Like I said, Andy Holloway is speculating they might shelve him. LeGarrette Blount went absolutely just bananas on Thanksgiving and scored 2 times. So that Rams game could shoot. There could be plenty of scoring opportunities. LeGarrette Blount could be a very sneaky play this week if Kerryon Johnson sits. And then Frank Gore, if Kenyon Drake sits, he's 33% owned. You can get him out there. Any other running backs?
Nope, I don't have any more running backs.
So wide receiver, I think there's a bunch this week too. What do you like?
Wide receiver, you already kind of touched on him, Josh Reynolds. He's somebody you can pick up. He's still available in 66% of leagues. He's prime for every down role. So
in a high-powered offense. I told everybody, they're going to be on a bye week, so you can get him now. So go get him, but he's still out there. People didn't get him. I love that pickup. Yes,
get guys on teams that score a lot of points.
Yeah, that's my brother. That's Eric Lungard, man. Shout out to my brother. He it's the simplest fantasy advice ever, but get guys on teams that score. Yeah, absolutely.
Tyrell Williams is nursing an injury apparently right now, so Mike Williams should be looking to get more playing time, and he's only 20 to 40%.
I owned Mike Williams beginning of the year because he had a couple of
some big touchdown games,
some touchdowns, and then I got rid of him. I dropped him. Like completely dropped.
Well, he was totally droppable,
and then now he's going to be back here shortly.
Oh. He was droppable, and but I DK
because he had 2 touchdowns last week.
Yeah, and I played him on DraftKings. I stacked Phillip Rivers and Keenan Allen, who had a great game, and Mike Williams. So I like that. I like Mike Williams in a standard league slightly more because he will only catch 2 or 3 balls. Yeah. But they'll probably both be touchdowns.
Phillip Rivers had the best start for a game ever.
Yeah, like
28 or 29.
Yeah, 29 completions. Who else do you like?
I think that this is somebody who hasn't been getting a lot of statistics, like high statistics lately, but he's still getting a lot of targets. John Brown. He only had 1 catch last week against the Raiders, but he was targeted 8 times, so he's still getting the targets. I mean, he's going to be more of a stash than a start right now. So he's there. Chris Godwin, especially with Deshaun Jackson's injury.
Yeah.
Chris Godwin is a viable option. Adam Humphries, once again, Deshaun Jackson's gone down, so there's more targets to go around.
Adam Humphries isn't only a pickup. He should have been started for the last several weeks. Over the last 5 weeks, he's the wide receiver 11 in fantasy football, and he's only 33% owned. Like, no one knows about this guy. They're not paying attention, but he's been
when I played him
balling.
4 weeks ago, he had 6 points.
Well, that happens to everybody. But
no, I know. I'm saying that's probably why.
Yeah. Probably when he became a hot pickup, he had a bad week and people dropped him and they haven't come back around. But he's been doing really well. If you pick up one of these guys and they have a bad week, that doesn't mean you drop them the next week. Right. I mean, they've got. If we're talking about these guys,
gotta have patience every now and then.
They've got opportunity. I like, and these guys are very low owned. Bruce Ellington, Taylor Gabriel, Antonio Callaway, and Curtis Samuel, especially if Devin Funchess sits again. He's these guys are 5 to 7% owned, except for Taylor Gabriel. I think he's 30% owned, but Antonio Callaway seems to be getting that rapport with Baker Mayfield. Taylor Gabriel, that could be a shootout with the Giants. Ellington, like I said, he plays in the slot with Stafford, who likes to target the slot. And Curtis Samuel has 3 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks. Did you know that? 3 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks. What's up with the tight end position? The tightest of ends, the tight position.
Well, somebody that we didn't mention that you have been talking about a lot during the podcast is Dante Moncrief too. You talked about him for DraftKings, but he's also only 3 to 5% owned. so you can pick him up in your standard leagues too.
No, that's a good point, man, because sometimes I look at these DraftKings plays and I'm like, man, this is a great play, and I don't realize that, like, okay, that means I could play him in regular fantasy too. So yeah, that's a good point, and it's against his former team, the Colts, and last time he played us, he smashed, so I like it.
All right, tight ends, once again, Chris Herndon. The guy is he's consistent there in New York, so I think you can add him to your team and he can stay there for the rest of the year. So
yeah,
especially if you need tight end.
He's putting up Jalen Richard, Theo Riddick numbers. Like he's getting that like 9 to 14 points every week, which this year in tight ends,
consistent.
Awesome.
If you don't have one of the big ones, that's not bad. And Jackson likes the Herndon guy too, and he's been getting red zone targets and not being able to pulling him down. So maybe some positive regression there. So I like it. Who else?
David Njoku. I think a lot of people dropped him recently, so he's only 10 to 20% owned.
He's 10 to 20% owned
across all formats.
Really? Mm-hmm. God, that seems super low that people don't have David Njoku on their team.
Yeah, I think a couple weeks ago when he had like a 0-point game,
zeros.
People dropped him. So
there you go. It's that goose egg will get you dropped. Well, yeah, Njoku is. Especially with the Freddie Kitchens running that offense and Baker going off. I love it. Who else you got?
Then Jonnu Smith. Once again, these are guys that I've mentioned last week. Still available. Jonnu Smith, Tennessee's tight end, 10 to 20% owned across all formats.
See, David Njoku is 71% owned on ESPN.
On ESPN?
Yeah. I'm just saying. I didn't think he was like, because otherwise I probably would have had him on my list. So I'm just saying, I'm kind of squashing. Yeah, I just had to look it up because I knew that he's out there and owned in a bunch of leagues. But anyway, that's cool. That means that, in ESPN, there's 20% of the leagues you can go pick him up.
I mean, I don't know. He's not somebody I've looked up. Like I don't know.
He looked great last week, man. He looked great I noticed right away in Baker's first preseason game. He threw a touchdown to Njoku and targeted him like 3 or 4 times on one drive. I could tell that he was going to be a heavily targeted guy. Vance McDonald has a pretty significant injury. So the outlaw, Jesse James, is
coming back to light.
Might be a good streamer. And Gerald Everett, the Rams guy, he's only 7% owned. Jesse James only 8% owned. So if you need a tight end stream, you could pick these guys up. These are dart throws, but Everett has scored in the last 2 games. Had 2 touchdowns in the last game, and Cameron Brate's still only 58% owned on ESPN. So and Jameis Winston loves throwing to that dude, and Chris Herndon. So the coolest thing about our streamers is like they're the same ones from last week, except for Gus Edwards and Josh Adams. Everybody did finally pick up those dudes.
Yeah.
But that gives me more confidence because they did great last week and they're still out there in a bunch of leagues. And sometimes people get on me and they're like, well, they're owned in my league. Well, okay. I mean, but a streamer that I pick is less than 50% owned. And that means that some of you guys can't get them and some of you guys can. So that's why we name multiple ones. And that's why we also name ones that are 3 to 5% owned, because if you're in that super expert league and all those guys are out there, we're giving you, the Antonio Callaway and Bruce Ellington, type guys too. So I just wanted to put that out there because somebody was giving me shit because they were like, oh, all your pickups, they're not on my waiver wire. So it's like, no, our top pickups might not be, but there's
some out there.
There's some out there. Defenses. Did you look up defenses?
I have a couple of defenses.
Cool.
Seattle defense is
they have a
good
great schedule coming up. They play San Francisco twice in the next 3 weeks.
Yep.
So they're doing okay.
Yeah, Seattle's got good matchups coming up. I think the Packers could be a good pickup. They're only 1% owned. Same with Seahawks.
Yeah, the Packers play the Cardinals, and that's a good matchup. Yeah.
And then the Dolphins play the Bills. I don't know. I like the Josh Allen matchup here. I don't like the Dolphins defense that much, but
okay, right on.
They're 100% owned.
Broncos are 50% owned, and they're going to be playing the Bengals,
the Bunglers,
the Raiders, the Niners, and Cleveland coming up, and Seattle I had on there too. So that's a good one. Seattle has a great. I mean, they've got San Francisco week 13 and week 15. So that's twice, to kick their ass. Love it.
Right on. So that is pickups with John. And we're going to run through the listener league real fast. Trust me, it'll be quick. All right,
little Guns N' Roses.
We had, once again, so this is obviously defaulted because we're looking at my ESPN, but Juice in the Morning and I'm going to need about Trey Fitty, Dylan Bolden. He was scared there for a moment. No, he wasn't, ladies and gentlemen. It was 169 to 106. He was the top scorer in the league this week. No worries. He trampled over Juice in the Morning. So Dylan Bolden is 11-1, and his top scorer was Christian McCaffrey with 46 points. Tom Brady was my top scorer with 24. AJ Green's Toe Ertz, 150 to Jersey Shore's Rejects, 115. I'm pretty sure Jersey Shore Rejects is taking a page out of the Oakland Raiders book and are going for the top pick next season. They are 3-9. AJ Green's Toe Ertz is 6-6.
That's Josh Miller's team.
Yep, Josh Miller.
He made some great trades.
Phillip Rivers had 26 points, and Russell Wilson 27 for Jersey Shore Rejects. Fist Pumps Bro, Brian Titus 117 to 126 with the hate tank Daniel Barlow. Sorry, Titus. That might keep him.
He's done.
He might be out of the playoffs there.
He's done, and man, he made such a great effort.
Great run. Lots of points scored. We should give him some props for that. Paulie Sleepers, the second highest scorer of the week.
What?
162 to a very, very close matchup with Trade Happy Wilson at 153.
I had to beat Trade Happy, man. You
guys both had starters that scored in the almost 40 points. Your top scorer, Amari Cooper, had that 39, and then he had Juju Smith-Schuster with 38.
Yeah.
So it was a very close.
He didn't need the win. He's in the playoffs.
9 points.
I needed the win.
And then you had our second tie of the season, Gert Squirt 112, and fuck off Jeff Fiddler, or fuck fantasy football by Jeff Fiddler, 112 to 112. So
Jeff broke his phone because he's lost by 2-3 points, and now he tied.
And that's the second tie for Gert Squirt.
And I play Gert Squirt this week.
He said 2 ties.
I play Gert Squirt this week, and I need a win, so please don't get your third tie. Next year we will be adjusting the scoring so it's decimal points, but there's too late for that. Thanks for playing, guys.
Yep, 112 to 112, and once again, let me look really quick. I just want to see the standings and the...
Well, it's Dylan Bolden. He's locked in up at the top at 10-2, and Trade Happy is underneath him at 8-4 or 9-3. They both have really good records. Josh, I think, is locked into the playoffs as well.
Well, I can see it on my phone, but I can't look at my phone right now because it's hanging up on that thing. But basically, you've got,
I think those 3 are in for sure, and then the other 3 spots are up for grabs. Me and Jeff, and...
here it is. So, Need About Trey 50 is number 1. Trade Happy Wilson is number 2. The Hate Tank is number 3. Paulie Sleepers is number 4. Toe Ertz is number 5. Fist Pumps Bro is number 6. I'm 7. And then from there on.
So you can still get in it, right?
I would have to win this week and next week to have a chance.
Well, next week's the playoffs for us.
Okay, so I'd have to win this week.
And other things happen.
And other people lose.
I just wanted to say this has been a competitive league, and shout out to everybody for helping that happen. And there's 2 things that I look at when I, figure out, is it a competitive league? And one is, trades. And they weren't all trade happy, like he was involved in about a third of them, but there were a lot of trades in our league. And then also looking at the waiver wire every week and seeing how much activity there is. These are obviously teams that want to be competitive. Every week they're dropping their worst guy and trying to pick up somebody better. So it's been a very competitive league. It's been fun. I'm glad I got my head out of my ass and won some games, and I'm in 4th place now, because for a while it looked like I was not going to make the playoffs.
You're going to make a run for the championship there, bud.
Yeah, that'd be nice, man. It'd be nice to show you guys what's up, and then everybody would know why they're listening to the show.
Yes.
There's a few other things that I had. Stat correction. We were talking about the Alvin Kamara retweet last week. Alvin Kamara retweeted my tweet, and I kept saying that 112 people had seen it, and you were like, but 1,500 people liked it. How's that possible? I don't think I could wrap my brain around this. 112,000 people saw that.
That's
tweet.
what I thought.
That really,
lots more impressive than 120.
Yeah, that really helped me gain some followers. I think somebody was like, Jesus, you gained 300 followers in like a week. So I'm up to like 750 or 1,750 followers.
He just keeps underselling.
I know. I can't.
I don't think he's got that.
I don't think I can wrap my brain around
cockiness that Juice in the Morning has with their solid 2,003 followers.
I don't think I can wrap my brain around how like big Paulie Sleepers is growing. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was, and Jax mentioned it briefly, is this new podcast app that we are associated with. So the guys over at ClipCa.ST have created a new software for people who listen to fantasy football podcasts. You go in, there's no navigating, there's no clickbait, there's no tabs or pages. When you go into ClipCa.ST and there's a dot between the A and then the ST, so it's ClipCa.ST, ClipCa.ST.
ClipCa.ST.
Yeah, ClipCa.ST with the dot right before the ST. And you go in there and it just goes right to the search bar, and you type in a team or a player name in the search bar, and then it populates all these podcasts that have talked about that team or that player that week, and then it plays a 1-minute clip. So his software isolates if someone talks about Nick Chubb.
It's basically Google for podcasts.
Yeah, but like
you can use it specifically for fantasy football by looking up specific players.
It's amazing that his software, though, I mean, they're not listening to all these podcasts and like picking out clips. His software isolates a soundbite based on the name. So if you go in there, and it's got last week's in there. So if you go in there and type in Josh Adams or Gus Edwards, you can listen to me and John talking about it, and it's only like 1 minute and 20 seconds. And then that's it. So if that's all you want to hear, you can go. If you want to just hear about one player, you can go, or one team, you can go and listen to a bunch of different podcasts. You could spend 15 minutes getting the information you want instead of paying, hours and hours and hours of time. But then there's also a link to go to the podcast and listen to
the full thing.
So if they listen for a minute, we get credit for the download. But also it's exposing people to our product if they go in there.
Hey, the more avenues we're in, the better. That's all I'm worried about.
Shout out to these guys. They reached out to me and asked if I'd be a part of it. I was like, man, it's Thanksgiving week. Let me get back to you. And then they blew up on Reddit. They blew up on Twitter. Everybody was talking about them. So I DM'd him and was like, hey, you want to put me on? And he was like,
hey, y'all got some more of those?
He was like, yeah, you want to get on because we just blew up. But no, he's really, really nice. And I'm just proud to be a part of it because the first podcast that comes up, if they've talked about the player, is the Fantasy Footballers, who you guys know. I mean, I love those guys. And the Roto Grinders, and 4x4 is on there now. And like Paulie Sleepers, Juice in the Morning is like the 5th or 6th one that shows up.
Yep.
So we're on that first page. So it's ClipCa.ST, and you can go in there and isolate just the information that you want, and also maybe be introduced to other podcasts that you like just by accident too.
As well.
So very excited.
And then I just had a couple questions following up with the Listener League. What are the team numbers going to be for next year? How many people are you going to have? Are you going to be dropping any teams? Are you going to be adding people?
Good questions. So I want to go to 12 teams next year. and I want you, John, to have a team. I think that would be really fun. And Jackson wants his own team.
Yep.
He's not really. I mean, it's tough to co-manage a team,
right?
So it's mine and his team, but it's really tough to co-own a team. So if we let Juice do it again, he'll get one. I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. So we're gonna go to 12. So the four of us will be.
If I would have finished last, I would have been okay with that, like kicking me out. But hey, I'm not finishing last. All right.
So we'll still have 8 listeners because we're gonna increase 2. So John and Jax can both have their team, and then I thought that we would, since there is no defenses, or since there is no kickers, I thought we would drop defenses too, and add a flex and make it like my Twitter experts league is, where it's just all offense, and then probably do decimal points. So there's been like 3 freaking ties in our league. Yeah. And I liked how we did it. We did a podcast during the draft, which was really, really cool. It made it a little kind of hectic for me, but we did a podcast live during the live draft on ESPN. And then the person that wins this year gets an automatic bid into next year. So if one of the listeners wins, then they get to be in next year. So Dylan, if he keeps running the table,
I think he's going to win.
Dylan's going to get a team next year on the league. So that's what we thought that we'd do. And maybe invite somebody. I was thinking about inviting Jim Jacks to do one, or Bronco Becca, or one of those guys too. Maybe we could do like a separate drawing and have like Joey Bag of Donuts and Bronco Becca and Jim Jacks and Stompy and all those guys in, and pick one of those guys, and then pick like 7 listeners. So yeah, thanks for asking, John. I was thinking about
there's a lot of avenues and different kind of paths we can take with
switching it up next year.
How exactly do the listeners get their names in the pot?
We emailing, and we tweeted a bunch about it. We put it on Facebook, and we had them email Juice, and then we drew. I did a pre-draft special, so which next year will definitely be 2 episodes, because that one was super long. AJ, my nephew, tweeted out Benjamin Button getting really old. He was like, "Oh, I just watched your podcast," and God, because the guy's getting really old. But anyway, that'll be 2. But that's when we talked about it, and we drew the names, and then the next podcast we did the live draft. So. People emailed, and then we drew out of the hat. So I think last year we had 25 or 30 people sign up, and we picked 8 people. So next year, hopefully we'll get close to
disappointed fans.
Hopefully next year we'll get close to 50 or maybe even 100 people.
Right.
So yeah.
All right.
Is there any talk about setting up some DraftKings games for Paulie's listeners?
That's something that AJ, who I was just talking about, my nephew, said that we should do. He said we should do a weekly head-to-head DraftKings. So I'm sure that Jax would be down. There's also Draft. So FanDuel has an app that's Draft, where you go in and it's usually 6 teams. So it's a lot smaller, and you do that weekly. So that's something that we could definitely do.
That would definitely be something I think interesting for the listeners and us.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you could get more people involved.
If you want to finish up, I did have a setup for a what's my rank?
We're hitting about 140.
No?
So I think we should save that for next week, because an hour and 40. Hey, I only have so much storage that I can do on this website.
My What's My Rank fans are going to have to wait one more week. Hey, guys, thanks for listening. And this is it. This is Crucial Times. You got to win your games. You got to win your leagues. And then you got to tell us that hopefully our advice helped you do so.
I want to thank everybody that joined the Twitter live. That was awesome. You guys gave a lot of feedback. Your LFC for Life net joined us.
That's the guy from across the pond.
So I'm so excited that he joined us.
Very nice.
Brett Bragdon, the PTO Unlimited podcast, that also I wish they would have joined this fantasy football league, because they actually talk about fantasy football, but they're very into movies, pop culture, and that kind of thing for their podcast, and kind of nerdy stuff, video games and stuff like that. And they've been on the Juice in the Morning podcast.
I'm gonna have to listen to them, because that sounds up my alley. Movies, video games,
they are great.
Stuff I do from my couch.
Yeah, they're great, and they're very active on Twitter and all the social medias. Just thank them for joining, because they record the exact same time we're recording this. So I always want them to join and watch, but they can't, because they're busy doing their own show.
Gotcha.
So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week. I think this is going to be an exciting finish to the fantasy football season.
Oh, yeah.
See you guys.
Good luck.
In the morning.